What's up, Whisper Nation? It is May 21st, and we are diving into the AFC East. We're going to dive into every single team down that whole entire East Coast, and that's going to be Buffalo, New England, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins. And we got a special guest today because Big Travy's out. He took today off, so we got a special guest, Joe Zollo from Club Fantasy FFL. He's going to give you all the insights on the AFC East because he's just a freaking pro at it right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
What's going on, Joe? Welcome to the show. If Whisper Nation's not familiar with Joe, they do great work over there at Club Fantasy FFL. They are links are in the bio for all of Joe's content. You can find them on Twitter at Joe_Zollo. You can find their YouTube page in our actual favorites on other favorite content on YouTube for fantasy football on our main page. But you can also search Club Fantasy and you will find them. Joe, how's it been, man?
Oh, the season gets closer and closer as we go along. And when you asked me to come on, you said AFC East. I'm like, heck yeah, get to crap on the teams I hate and still crap on the team I love because they're not that good this year. But I'm excited. I saw the show sheet. I love working with you guys. I've been on the past, I think it's 2 or 3 years now at this point with you guys in August for that 24-hour mock draftathon. I'm excited to be on one of the regular shows. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you on a regular show. And like we were on your guys' mock draft on Wednesday, and I was pumping you up. I was saying you were coming on the show. I was bragging a little bit, but I was saying to them, I'm really looking forward to having you guys on again for the mock draft marathon and make it 3 years in a row. Yeah. And you guys got to help us make it through, man, because it gets to be a grind sometimes, but you guys make it a lot of fun and enjoyable.
We love doing it every year, and I love hopping in when Josh is on, and they like hopping in when myself is on, and we snipe each other's picks because we know exactly who they're gonna take. Yeah, I mean you probably do the same thing with Travi. Like you've been working with him all the time, and you're just like, oh yeah, he's going to take this person. I maybe not believe in this person as much, but I just want to do it to see his reaction, and it gets him every time, and I love it.
Every single time, and it's even gotten to the point now where Whisper Nation now will snipe us, and it's like,
love it.
That's when
that's a true fan base.
I know, right? And we are very lucky. And hey, listen, if you are new to our channel and you've tuned in this far, welcome. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We put out content Monday through Friday, and we go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do mock drafts, and we talk about players. We have people on the show. So if that sounds interesting to you and you like the fantasy football community, make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that bell notification so you get notified anytime that we drop new content or go live. All right, Joe, that's enough of that small talk. We've warmed up our vocals a little bit. You sound great over there, by the way.
Thank you.
I just have to say, again, I told you that before show, but I just got to mention again. But we like to, warm up the vocals a nice bit before we dive into the main part of the show, which is talking about those AFC East teams. I want to propose a question to you, a question of the day. It's going to be a keep, trade, cut. All right. Now, these guys are running backs that are going in the second and third round now, but they are all going together, which is why I want to put them together, because I think this will be valuable information for people who are going into their draft, and maybe what you say can help change their path for next year's stardom in fantasy football. So I'm going to give you this keep, trade, cut. All right, CEH, Antonio Gibson, and J.K. Dobbins. Who you got?
I'm keeping Antonio Gibson, trading J.K. Dobbins, and cutting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me just be 100% honest with you. He's 5'8", can't block. I don't care about his running game. Mahomes throws the football 500 times a season. He has limited touches. Antonio Gibson, listen, you can keep or trade Antonio Gibson or J.K. Dobbins. I don't care what you do there. Personally, I like Gibson more because he has less in front of him and less to worry about with Heineke or Fitzpatrick at quarterback, whereas J.K. Dobbins is the de facto 2 even though he's the number one on the depth chart because Lamar Jackson is stealing carries from him. Every one of these guys can catch. Antonio Gibson, I think, is probably one of the best pass catchers, if not the best, out of all of these guys here. So obviously,
He was a
PPR
former
points
wide
there.
receiver.
Yes, Memphis standout, baby. Gotta love those Memphis running back / receivers.
Gotta love him.
And then J.K. Dobbins, I think here garners the most trade value. Because to me, it's between the trade cut between CEH and Dobbins. And I think Dobbins by far is going to get you more in a dynasty league than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yes, Helaire, both of their upsides are capped because they are basically taking away touches. Dobbins in the run game and CEH also in the run game, but also in the passing game just because Mahomes is not looking his way. It's going Hill, Travis Kelce, and then Mahomes is probably going to take off if he has a lane to. I like the new additions they added on the offensive line, but it's not enough to, let me keep or even try and trade bait CEH.
I love having you on the show just normally, Joe, but this is why I definitely like having you on the show. I can already tell it's going to be a great show because CEH has actually been a guy that you will very rarely, at least to my perspective, get that side of the coin or side of the glass on CEH this year. And kudos to Joe because I think that, he's being real authentic and honest here. And I do think that there are some things that are concerning that people just overlook because, like you said, it's a Pat Mahomes offense. Well, what does that mean? It definitely means that it makes more sense analytically for Pat Mahomes to throw the ball every time than it is to ever run the ball because he can. Yeah. So they do factor that in as a head coaching. And let's not also forget that CEH was chosen because Pat Mahomes liked CEH, not because he was truly the best running back available. And close. So you make some good points there. I think I'm still buying in on CEH as far as where his value goes, but I do understand your argument on this, keep trade cut and how you broke it down because I do think, J.K. Dobbins does garner more name value right now, and I personally am a fan of Antonio Gibson. So great breakdown there, Joe. Are you ready, man? Are you ready to get into the AFC East and dive into all these teams? It may get ugly because we do have to talk about the Jets. But are you ready?
Let's dive in, baby. It's funny. I know the Jets are our last team, but we had to do our Look Inside series that we're starting, and I'm the one that picks the sleepers and the IDPs. And okay. I put in the show sheet, I said, I hate everyone on the Jets, but because I have to choose, it's player X. I do so. Just little teaser. Don't like the Jets at all this year. So now let's dive into it.
All right. Well, the good news is that one's coming like last. So
yes, perfect.
People can maybe tail off. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Wait, we got some good stuff coming.
Oh, it's still gonna be good.
It's going to be great. All right, we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills because that one is very, very interesting. Obviously. And has a lot of, fantasy relevant players and then maybe some that we don't necessarily like too much. And I want to get your honest opinion about those guys. But let's start with Josh Allen, all right? He was a player that, right after football ended, everyone was, football fatigue. We get it. But Josh Allen was definitely sliding in fantasy drafts, right? He was not the second overall pick off the board, even though he finished as the number one overall quarterback. He was still, 5 or 6 down as the quarterback taken. Fast forward 2 months, and the fantasy community is now getting aboard that, and they have risen that value all the way up to QB2 off the board. Are you concerned that there could be some regression coming from Josh Allen, that maybe we saw the extent and in the peak of what he could potentially be, because he saw 102 rushing attempts, 8 rushing touchdowns, which he's never had any less than in his entire career. However, you're seeing more and more indication that, hey, maybe we shouldn't let Josh Allen take those hits. What is your viewpoint on Josh Allen? Are you going to be having a lot of shares of Josh Allen this year, or are you telling people, you should take him because I think he'll return that value?
I'm one that just tends to wait on a quarterback. So a guy like Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, they rarely ever fall to me. If they fell, I'm snatching up Josh Allen in a heartbeat. That's not even a question. When you talk about guys that you draft in the first round from a football perspective as a quarterback, the progression he's made from year 1 to year 3 is astounding, especially from where he came out of Wyoming. That's the progression you want. You want, a little rough but good in year 1, great leap in year 2, and then astronomical, almost MVP-like leap in year 3. And that's exactly what he did. And the best part is they didn't bring in a single running back that is going to take away his goal line carries. Unless they want to, rope in Zach Moss more into the offense because now it's year 2, maybe. But Devin Singletary's not going to goal line carry. So really his only competition is Zach Moss. And at that point, they added Emmanuel Sanders. They only got better on offense. It's ridiculous. Their offensive line doesn't truly concern me at all. And Josh Allen's massive. You need 2 people to bring that guy down. He's huge.
He's so big.
He's huge. And I think I don't want to say there's going to be immense regression. I don't expect him to ball as big as he did last year because now I think teams are going to be a little more prepared for his game. We saw Mahomes in his 55 touchdown year. No one expected Mahomes to ever do that again. Or was it 50? I forget exactly what he had.
Yeah,
but
it was 55. I think he'll get 50 again, but I don't know if he'll do 55.
Yeah, that's just nuts, right? That's literally a record. That's unbelievable. Josh Allen will probably take a slight step back, but it's not going to be noticeable. He'll make up for it in some way or in some way, shape, or form. He's now in year 2 with Stephon Diggs. Cole Beasley looked like the best slot receiver in the NFL with him. Gabe Davis, talk about a guy who's fast and opposite Stephon Diggs, and now he doesn't have to worry about John Brown being in front of him. Gabe Davis is going to have a great season. And then I said Emmanuel Sanders. They have 4 receivers. Or I'll say 3 receivers. Gabe Davis is still unproven. I think a lot of people are just high on him. They have 3 proven receivers in this offense. Tight end lacks. Dawson Knox isn't anything special, but we've seen him.
He can get the job done.
He can get the job done, exactly. He's not going to be astronomical, but he's a great football tight end, just not a great fantasy football asset. There's nothing stopping Josh Allen from being the QB1 again this year. Literally nothing. The defenses outside of New England in this, I'll give Miami a little credit. I don't think there's any defense that's really going to slow down this offense, especially in the division. They have 2 cupcake games against the Jets, so that's an easy 40 points from Josh Allen there in both of those games. They're set up so well this year, and I'm very angry because they had a great draft too, which is painful as a Patriots fan. They had a really good draft, so I love it. And their defense is going to get people off the field fast, which then means more showtime and more face time for Josh Allen.
Yeah, their defense really started to click there near the end and on their playoff run. It was really interesting to see. All right, you talked about, I like those takes. You talked about if he failed to you, and what's the right price for you to pay for Josh Allen? What round would you be saying, all right, I'd be interested in him?
All right, so I'll preface this. I play in a lot of leagues that tend to be you start 1 quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, and then you flex between 3 to 4 players. So I always almost go running back in 1 and 2. There's nobody. David Johnson's going in the 3rd round, and that scares me. So there's nobody at that point. So I'm like, okay, I want 1, 2. And for example, last year I ended up with DK Metcalf and Robert Woods in the 5th and 6th rounds. Steals at that point. Steals at that point.
I know. I was smashing Robert Woods in every draft that I had last year because it was just ridiculous. It was criminal.
We had Hitman on from the Fantasy Footballers, and I asked him, what do you think about Robert Woods? Could he be a low end wide receiver 1? And he said, I don't see it. And I was like, bet he'll be a low end wide receiver 1 by the end of the year. He ended wide receiver 12, and I was very happy.
You said that last year. That's very impressive. I thought you were doubling down even on this year, and I was
I mean, this year I could definitely see. I mean, Stafford's a gunslinger, but
he is. Everyone's doubting him, and it's wild to me.
He's in an even better offense than was
with an even better offensive or minded head coach.
Oh my god, yeah. And and an actual running back, which is big time.
Yep.
So I think Cam Akers does dip into the production of Robert Woods because obviously Akers wasn't full steam last year. But focusing back here because I got completely off track. But Josh
you're okay,
Allen, I got Kyler Murray in the 10th in the same league where I got DK and Woods in the 5th and 6th. If Josh, which is criminal, again, criminal,
Yeah.
I don't know how he fell that low.
You would never fall that far for us because I play with a lot of Arizona Cardinals fans.
Oh God, no, he's gone in the 4th round.
Yeah,
no doubt.
100%.
Josh Allen, I like. If I was sitting there comfortable with 2 running backs and 2 receivers, I would have no problem pulling the trigger in the 5th.
Okay.
I tend to not be the person to pull the trigger in the 5th because I want depth at receiver and running back. So, but if you're someone who wants a quarterback, I would have no problem with Josh Allen even as high as the 4th. Just again, his rushing upside. Like if you're telling me he's scoring 8 touchdowns a season, you're guaranteeing me what's that, 48 points? Guaranteed 48 points a year. Cool, sign me up. Like that's perfect.
And here's the other aspect of the quarterback, the drafting the high quarterback, right? That a lot of people actually don't talk about even in our community. And that is the psychological effect that a quarterback on your roster like that has. And I say that because I did take Pat Mahomes early in a league last year because and several leagues actually, because I thought about that. Because when you'll start seeing, and we say it to our own audience, right? When you're going into a week-to-week game, you look at your opponent's roster and you start to say, okay, I think this guy can get this many points. I think he can get this many points. And you start gauging. And then you can get a sense of, all right, do I need to have a high-end game or do I just need to play solid players this week? And you get a sense for that. And when you have a guy like Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes on your roster, every single time guys think I need to go for that ceiling because this could be the week that Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen drops 48 and I am instantly out of the game. Yep. And so it's just like another psychological effect that I think a lot of people don't really talk about in our game, but it is something that is there.
No, I love that point. I mean, we talk about it on our Start Sit Different Day show that we do. Like we ask, like, hey, who are you playing against? How much are you down? Like, especially if there was a Thursday night game. We tell them, look, if you're chasing, pick X player. Yeah. If you're in a solid state and you just need like 10 solid points, go with this player. And I think like even just good comparison at the quarterback position, Kirk Cousins is probably a guy you're guaranteed like 15 to 20 points a week, depending on your league scoring. Like he's the epitome of I need a solid game. I don't need can he do 40 points a week? Maybe. Could he maybe drop a dud and get 8? Maybe. But odds are he's scoring 20. Like that's your odds.
Good or bad matchup. Good or
doesn't
bad
matter.
matchup. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. He could be playing the Texans or the 85 Bears. He's averaging 20 points.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
It's so funny you bring that up because Big Travi hates that fact. Like he is so against Kirk Cousins, and because of the fact that he just always either underperforms or overperforms depending on the matchup. And it's like, you can never really trust him to be like, yes, you need to smash start him. And then, he always ends up, failing in one way or another, I guess. But I do want to get on to these running backs, Joe, and ask you, because we talked about the rushing share of Josh Allen and guys like that, but Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Now, these guys are, to be frank, in fantasy terms, with all due respect, if they're watching the show, but you're just staying away from this backfield, right? Like, there's nothing sexy and appealing about like Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. I mean, they're decent metric wise as far as running backs. However, like the upside is all gone because of Josh Allen. Am I missing something, or is there another, way to look at this and where you might be interested in one of these two running backs?
No, you're not pulling anything for them. Like obviously, like you're looking at two guys. It's a 1A 1B backfield. No one's really taking over unless Zach Moss or Singletary. I think it's really Singletary's job to lose at this point. Like he's going to be the guy most likely in between the 20s with Zach Moss sprinkled in, but inside the 20, it's almost going to be exclusively Zach Moss, just simply based on his size. Mm-hmm. If a guy like Singletary falls to the 6th and he's like your 3rd or 4th running back, like take a flyer. Like maybe he plays a terrible defense one week and Zach Moss is hurt and like he's the only guy back there. Pop him in the lineup. Who knows? Maybe something happens, but I am not rushing to get any of these guys. Like the only guy I'm potentially rushing to get if he falls is Zach Moss, strictly for the Mike Tolbert factor of him potentially vulturing touchdowns. Yeah. But the vulture on this team is Josh Allen, so it doesn't matter. Like the backfield is rendered useless at this point, and Singletary and Zach Moss are great football players. They're terrible fantasy football players. Like if Mitch Trubisky was the quarterback, we'd probably be talking about Zach Moss in a different light. But with Josh Allen, it's no competition. They're the 2nd and 3rd options behind him.
It's so the reason why I'm not recommending drafting these players, and like you said, Zach Moss could be Mike Tolbert. You're very right on that back, but I don't know if I necessarily completely see that path because of Josh Allen. But also, you talk about like tradability, which is not really talked about heavily during the draft. But you have to think about it in your mind because you're not going to have the team that you started off with when you end unless you're in best ball. And so you have to think, okay, when I'm selecting players, do I at least have an option of like trading this guy if he doesn't necessarily pan out? And the more often than not, it's Zach Moss or Singletary because those guys are going to end up on the waivers and people don't want to trade for him because they know exactly what we're telling you, like, oh, Josh Allen's the goal line back. So I just have a hard time drafting any of these players. But like, I do agree with you when you say if I'm going to take anybody, I'd probably take a stab at Zach Moss because he's the goal line guy. All right, I want to wrap up the Buffalo Bills here with the wide receiver. You mentioned them before. Do you like, obviously Stephon Diggs coming off as, the 3rd or 4th wide receiver off the board. Do you think that's justified with the fact that Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley are still there and Gabriel Davis? And then what roles do you expect those guys to play exactly now that John Brown is now out? Because Emmanuel Sanders is a, shorter distance guy, underneath guy. And so where are you kind of projecting these guys?
Yeah, in his when Sanders wasn't 34, he was a burner. He's no longer a burner at this point in his career. Don't get me wrong, he's still like, I would want Emmanuel Sanders on my team. He's a solid receiver. Diggs will play out. Diggs is going to do the exact same thing as he did last year, obviously. Cole Beasley is going to do the exact same thing as he did last year, obviously. I don't want to claim to know their entire offensive scheme, but if they're smart, they run 4 wide receiver sets 60% of the time because you'd run Diggs and Gabe Davis on the outside opposite each other, and then Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders in the slot opposite each other. And then, you can keep Singletary in the back in a pistol formation or just a straight shotgun with a running back off to the side. Or if you want to just go empty set and throw, I think Jacob Hollister, I didn't realize he was on the roster. Jacob Hollister is a really good pass catching tight end. I don't know if he even makes the roster at this point, but the only guy standing in front of him is Tommy Sweeney, who's a 7th round pick. Dawson Knox will make the roster. I think he's the starter, but I think Jacob Hollister could maybe see some time. If you're smart, like Stephon Diggs should get double coverage, and if he doesn't, the defensive scheme is wrong. Like it's just wrong. Let someone else beat you. Don't let Stephon Diggs beat you. So at that point, if you're telling me Gabriel Davis and his 4.3 speed is 1-on-1 on the 2nd best DB on that defense, goodbye. That's like that should be 10 touchdowns for him this season. No doubt at that point. I think Cole Beasley does the exact same thing. I don't think anyone digs into anyone's targets at all because John Brown left. Obviously injured a lot last year, but even when he was the number 1 guy there, Brown garnered a lot of targets, and he was a Josh Allen favorite, and rightfully so. John Brown was a great receiver, but Diggs now fills that John Brown role, which he already filled last year. Gabe Davis now slides into John Brown's role that was last year, and now Sanders is just a nice little toy to have. Like Sanders is just now there as an exceptional piece. They're nasty. Like
Yeah,
I'm
they're
gonna
pretty
be
loaded.
honest. All of them are draftable. All of them.
All right. I like that. I like that insight. 52 targets is what John Brown had last year. And so it's like if you give Gabriel Davis, 52 targets on like that super deep, like you were just
Oh
talking
my
about,
god.
he definitely has a really nice upside, especially like in a best ball format. I think that he is a definite smash
Yeah.
guy that you can get way later in drafts that, like you said, it just takes that one-on-one coverage, which they're going to try to get him on because he's fast and big. And then you've got a guy who can literally chuck it over the mountains, and Josh Allen. So I do like that take. All right. That's enough of the Buffalo Bills. We will move on to a less sexy, but still, they could be sexy this
They
year.
could.
Miami Dolphins. At least I'm drinking the Kool-Aid down there in Florida. Let's start off here with Tua. Do you think Tua is a guy that you would be interested in? I know that you are often a late round quarterback. Do you see a path where Tua could take a next step and be, maybe a top 8? Or, maybe if you think his legs could get him there, maybe top one, the number 1 overall quarterback. I don't know if that's in the range, but what are your thoughts on Tua this year?
Oh. Dump off QBs don't tend to make top 8. So
Wow.
yeah. So sorry Tua. I am of the hard belief Nick Saban will never create an NFL starting quarterback that's actually good. Tua is the only one that could potentially do that. Look back at his history. He's not made a single one.
It is a good point.
And I don't count Jalen Hurts as a Nick Saban quarterback. He was terrible at Alabama, and Lincoln Riley made him the quarterback that he is right now. Tua has the best shot. He has an unbelievable ball. Like, you cannot take away the arm talent. I don't see it. Like, I don't think they're going to unleash him like they potentially should. And I also think he acted a little gun shy last year. He was, and again, that may be just because he's a rookie, didn't have his mini camps, all that stuff. I could be 100% wrong here. I don't want a share of Tua. And you're right. He's going to fall to like 12, 13, and this is single QB. Obviously, if it's a 2 QB league, I'm fairly positive he's going before the 10th round as someone's number 2 quarterback. His weapons are fantastic. They gave him Will Fuller. They drafted Jaylen Waddle. Miles Gaskins still out of the backfield. They got Mike Gesicki, obviously. They drafted Hunter Long from BC. So, they gave him weapons to throw to. And I don't see it. He acted gun shy, and I think some of that was rookie minicamp, but I don't think all of it was. I think he's scared to make a mistake, especially off last year. He got benched twice.
Yeah, that would do a little psyche to you.
Yeah, like that messes, especially a young quarterback, that messes with him. And also, they brought in Jacoby Brissett, who is not a world beater by any means, but Brissett is a guy who can come in off the bench and still win you a game if you need him to. So if Tua's playing poorly, Flores is going to be like, goodbye, let's throw in Jacoby. And keep in mind, Brissett played with Brian Flores when he was in New England. So that obviously the relationship there is why Jacoby Brissett partially got the job. But a very deserving job as a backup. I think Brissett's a good backup. But again, I don't see it with Tua. I don't. And I hope he proves me wrong, because he hasn't done anything to like anger me or be like an a-hole of a player. Like, he does everything correct.
I know, right? He's such a player to like.
Yeah, stand-up guy, literally on the field, like FaceTiming his parents after he took his first NFL snap. Like, how do you not like that guy?
Right.
Just as a football player, I don't see it right now. And he has all the talent and weapons to do it. I just don't see it.
See, Joe separates, his emotions from the fantasy analytics. That's what Joe's really good at. He could do that. I tend to like the emotional part, but I will say this. Would it surprise? I mean, it did kind of surprise me a little bit that if you look at Tua's deep ball attempts per game, he actually only had one fewer deep ball attempt per game on average than Josh Allen. Josh Allen had 4.3, and Tua actually had 3.3. Now, I do know that the reason that they drafted Waddle, and then they also went out and got a guy like Will Fuller, was because Tua was taking those attempts, but they were meaningless because they didn't have a player to go down and get the ball that was good at contested rate and could win that one-on-one. They were using Mike Gesicki as that player. And we all know, like, don't get me wrong, I'm one of the biggest Mike Gesicki fans that you'll probably ever meet, because he's just, from an athletic standpoint, he has it all.
Freak.
And so I understand, like, he could run a 4.42 or whatever it is, and he's a tight end. I get it, but he's not the guy you want as your outside X receiver going down the field. And so now, because you also had Devonte Parker, who was a little bit injured, and Devonte Parker, anyway, he kind of tends to take the more underneath stuff as opposed to downfield. With them bringing in a guy like Will Fuller, who we've seen do that for Deshaun Watson. Now, am I comparing Tua to Deshaun? I'm not, because Deshaun is a lot more of a risk taker, especially down the field. But we've seen Will Fuller get open, and some of those bombs could be very easy for Tua. And then same with Waddle. I mean, Waddle, a lot of people are projecting him, as a quote. It was funny, quote unquote, Tyreek Hill, 2.0. Everyone's trying to say that everyone's got one. But I'm just saying that with that speed and the guys that can actually win one-on-one on the outside and then go up and get the ball, he might have a chance. But I do like your breakdown on Tua, and I do think that that's probably going to be more realistic. As I was doing up the show notes and stuff, I was thinking to myself, we're probably just a year too early on Tua. In all honesty, I think, he'll get one more year, get that confidence up, get these nice weapons integrated, and then he'll get the confidence and go from that second to third year and really potentially see that big breakout. I like that from you. All right, I'm going to ask you about Myles Gaskins, because everyone has an opinion on him, because why not? He's, he survived the NFL draft. Literally, Joe, he survived. And so my question to you, are you one of those that is buying into him, or are you saying, you know what, I understand the production was there, but I think it was a little fluky. I'm going to stay away, and I would rather go in another direction.
I have him in a dynasty league, so I have to buy
you and Ryan.
Yeah, I have to at this point. I have to buy into Myles Gaskin. But no, the two biggest winners in the NFL draft: Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin. Not even close. Their teams just said, we don't want a running back. We'll roll with Mike Davis, and they're both solid running backs. None of them are world beaters, but we saw what Gaskin did last year. Like, he was great. He is a solid pass catcher, so he's going to get those PPR points. Dump off City Tua. If he keeps up what he did last year, dump it off to Myles Gaskin, that'd be fantastic. He has no competition. He's not going to get goal line carries. He's too small. That'll probably go to Malcolm Brown, just because he's now in there. Big body dude, saw him last year in Los Angeles with the Rams. Or even Patrick Laird, who somehow still has a job with his team.
No idea.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
But, and again, I think it shows the confidence that Flores in the offense has in Myles Gaskin, considering he was a 7th-round pick in his third year. This is going into his third year. Just the confidence to have in a guy like that. Like, we saw James Robinson undrafted last year. He was one of the best fantasy football running backs, and probably one of the best overall running backs in the NFL. And boneheaded Urban Meyer said, no, we'll take a running back in the first round with that pick. I completely disagree with that move that Jacksonville did, because you already had a guy you're literally paying the league minimum for, and now you're paying another running back $5 million a year. Like, that, it doesn't make sense to me. Different story for a different day, but Myles Gaskin is getting the literally league minimum. I think he's bottom 10 in running back salary right now in the NFL. That shows the confidence this team has in him, and that's what I like. I am not reaching for him by any means. Like, if someone's going to take Myles Gaskin in the 4th round, let him have him. Because at that point, he's your second running back, and I don't think he's RB2 numbers. Can he get there? Definitely. I think he's more like scraping RB2 numbers, because there's going to be weeks he gives you RB1, a lot of weeks he gives you RB2, and then like 5 weeks where he's non-existent. And I don't like that. So if he falls to me in the 7th or 8th, whoop, scoop him right up. That's perfect. But I like Myles Gaskin this year. I know it's you talk. Everyone has an opinion. That is literally heads or tails. You cannot be in the middle with Myles Gaskin. It's heads or tails. You're one way or the other.
I know, and it's like you made some good arguments though that I didn't necessarily. I don't know if I'm so concerned about Malcolm Brown. I mean, the goal
Yeah.
line thing is very interesting uh, because he is so much bigger, than Myles Gaskin. But Myles Gaskin is so electric, man. I mean, he
He's
was
slippery.
He was behind one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Terrible.
And he still averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which like I'm not the biggest yards per carry guy, but that's impressive if you're doing that behind one of the worst offensive lines. I will say this: the amount of money is also a little bit of a concern
Definitely.
from the point of like, okay, like they could cut ties with him so easily. And do I think that happens? I don't, because I do think that they saw and they liked what they saw. But I do want to say that this Jared Dokes kid who they just drafted, and now I'm not saying that he'll necessarily be a kid this year or a guy this year. He could be, later on if there's injuries and things like that. But he's really interesting. I'll tell you, for down the road, if I'm in a dynasty league, I am very much considering taking a dart throw on him, because I watched some of his tape and I really liked what I saw as from pass catching standpoint and just kind of what they kind of like, as far as like a one cut runner kind of thing. He's just big and he's a bruiser. So I do think he's a little bit interesting, but I am on the side of Myles Gaskin this year, but I do like what you're saying about getting him in the fourth in the sixth or fifth as opposed to the fourth.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
no, you're good. No, I would say, and also Jared Dokes is a 7th-round pick, and we know Miami likes their 7th-round running backs. So
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
Which I think was smart. I was asking Ryan about that on one of our past shows, and I was just saying how I think that's going to be much more of a common thing moving forward, because analytics plays a huge part in all sports now, and that's continuing to grow. And the analytics just keep showing, hey, grab these undrafted free agents or these late round running backs, use them for a year or two, and then get another one. And it's unfortunate. It really is, because guys that are really fun to watch and electric are making, the worst salary, in football. Speaking of a guy who almost was making a terrible salary and would have actually probably been out of the league, but then turned around, and then he kind of baffled us last year again. Devonte Parker, in this question of a post hype sleeper, are you on that one? He's going super late in drafts. Like I'm talking 10th, 11th round plus. And then you've got, Will Fuller there as a new addition. We talked about him being added, Jaylen Waddle in the draft, and Mike Gesicki. What are you thinking about these pass catchers? Are you interested in them? You were talking about how you're interested in every one of the Buffalo Bills wide receivers, but how many of the Miami Dolphins wide receivers are you interested in?
if you're telling me Devonte Parker is going in the 10th round,
It's a steal, right? Like
I
it's
am
like
all in on Devonte Parker. You're telling me Devonte Parker is going to be my 4th or 5th wide receiver?
why not?
Literally, why not? Like, you don't have to rely on him ever. Like, and he's the number one. Sorry, Will Fuller, you're not the number one. He's the number one. And I understand the hit, because Tua didn't know Devonte Parker was ever on the field, so I understand that.
Sorry, the way you phrased that was hilarious.
Gotta phrase it funny. Thank you. Will Fuller and Jaylen Waddle are the same human. They just wear different numbers and have different names. I like Will Fuller. I like Will Fuller this year. I hate Jaylen Waddle this year. I don't see him. Will Fuller and Jaylen Waddle are the same person. Like
The exact same person. Yeah.
You want to talk about Jaylen Waddle being the next Tyreek Hill? Will Fuller is already a deep threat in the NFL. Like, he's there. He's solidified. Miami brought him in for that reason. Like, Devonte Parker was their deep threat. He's not that guy. He's a possession guy. Will Fuller is the guy that's going to speed down the field and open up the middle of the field for Devonte Parker. That's exactly why they did that. Jaylen Waddle, I think, is going to run more underneath stuff. Think of like Albert Wilson when he's ever healthy for that team. which isn't a bad thing. But Jaylen Waddle's not going to be a slot guy like a Edelman, Cole Beasley, go back to like the late 2000s, early 2010s, Wes Welker. That's going to get you 100 catches. That's just not going to happen. Too many mouths to feed in this offense. I don't think they let Tua sling it that much to allow 3 receivers to do anything with it. If you're telling me Devonte Parker's falling to the 10th, I am taking him in the 10th. I would take him in the 8th. Like, that is criminal he's falling that low.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah, and by no means I'm not high on Devonte Parker by any means, but I'm high enough to the point where you're dumb to not take him if he's not there as your 3rd receiver even. Like, again, third receiver, yes, in a lot of leagues where you can flex 2 or 3 receivers, you may have to rely on your 3rd receiver. But if you're telling me he's your 3rd receiver behind, I don't know, Justin Jefferson, and then give me a wide receiver too, like that's absurd. That a guy you know is the solidified one in his offense is now your wide receiver 3. That's crazy to me. That's utter bedlam. Like, that makes no sense.
I think it's a major part of the fact that, Parker was such a bust for so long. He burned so many people, and then he had the breakout year, right? And some people bought into that. It wasn't, an astronomical draft price last year, but it was higher. And then he, failed. No Dolphins wide receiver was inside the top 40 at the position last year. And, Devonte Parker finishing as the wide receiver 46. And so I think too many people look at that and they just see those numbers and say, okay, well, Devonte Parker is who we thought he was, right? But I think that they failed to realize, one, like you said, Tua, he wasn't playing the right position last year. Yeah. 2, he was injured, like he was dealing with a hamstring injury that significantly hampered him the entire season. And he just kept playing because he wanted to show people how tough he was, because he was tired of that notion. And so it's like, if you drafted him last year, yeah, it does suck, but I do think he's a guy that I'm definitely buying back into, and I've been taking on in a lot of mock drafts. I'll tell you that, Joe. Like, I'm like, what, Devonte Parker? All right, I guess I'll throw him on here because, yeah, like you said, you grab a solid wide receiver, an anchor wide receiver, as we like to say it on this show, and then you wait till that 6th, 7th round to grab your 2nd wide receiver, and then you get a guy like Parker as your 3rd. I think that you could do a lot of damage with that.
Definitely.
All right. We are going to move on to your favorite team, Joe. That is the New England Patriots here. We will start this topic off with a Cam Newton truth section because I'll be honest with you. We had talked about, or we had Cam Newton on show sheets a couple of weeks ago. And I could not make the show. It was with Stepmom Lauren and Big Travie. And they hated Cam. They were like, not about it. They didn't like it. Finished as the QB 16. They didn't see the upside. And I'm sitting here thinking, I do think there is a little bit of upside. Call me crazy, but for as late as Cam Newton is going, and for as much as the upside that we did see in those first 2 games pre-COVID, that's the whole thing. Was like pre-COVID, he looked great. Post-COVID, he said he suffered some stuff. They didn't have the receivers. The list goes on. But we have seen that upside, and I think that upside intrigues me, especially if I can. People keep taking my quarterbacks and, it's like in my back pocket, hey, I'll just end up going with Cam. Are you on that boat? Tell us the truth. You're the guy to go to. You're no better person than to ask Joe Zollo about Cam Newton.
I made a list of quarterbacks that I'd rather start over Cam Newton. 73 quarterbacks made that list. 73 quarterbacks.
Folks, there are only 32 quarterbacks that start in the NFL.
Yo,
there are 64 quarterbacks that make up a start or a backup. And Joe is saying that Cam Newton shouldn't even be one of those ones.
Correct. And
explain yourself, Joe.
Let me preface. It's 72 and Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman made the list strictly on an entertainment factor. That was the only reason he made the list. I sat there and said, who would I want to watch play football? It was also, who do I think could, throw the football better than Cam Newton, which is everyone on the face of the planet. But I sat there and said, you know what? Nathan Peterman would be more entertaining than Cam Newton. Do I know I'm going in with a loss? 100%. But I don't have to wait for the heartbreak because it happens on the first play.
Listen, if you ask the right coach, Peterman's the best quarterback in the league, man.
Yeah, John Gruden.
So Cam could take that as a compliment.
I guess.
But tell the people why you're so against him.
He can't play football anymore. It is that simple. He can't play the game anymore. Can he run? On occasion. Like he's 6'6", 260 pounds. He's a refrigerator with legs. Like he's not going to go down in the backfield. It's impossible. He's too big. His entire career has been about that. 2 shoulder surgeries later, he can't throw the football. It is painful to watch him throw the football. He can't do it. Like there's a play against the Houston Texans. He had Damiere Byrd butt naked. My favorite term in football is butt naked. He was butt naked 30 yards down the field in the end zone, wide open. Damiere Byrd toasted the guy who was covering him. And Cam Newton did a 10-yard check down to Jacoby Myers. And you watch the replay and you sit there and you're baffled. You're just like, every quarterback in the NFL would make that throw except Cam Newton, because he knows in the back of his head he can't do it. He can't do it. He had one passing his first passing touchdown to a receiver came in week 13.
He was 31st in the league in deep ball attempts at 26 last year. So that is not good.
31st. Why? Why is he on a... Get me wrong, he should be on a roster as a backup and mentor to Trey Lance, because that's the quarterback that is the next Cam Newton, or built like Cam Newton is what I should say. Why is he on this roster blows my mind. Him and Mac Jones could not be on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to quarterbacks. Pocket passer, can't move, can't throw in the pocket, only moves. Like, they are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I don't know how they're going to build their offense this year, because to me, it should be Mac Jones starting 16 of 17 games, and Cam Newton gets his revenge game against Carolina. Let him have fun. Let it be the last hurrah. But I despise Cam Newton as a player. Everything he does for the community, especially in Carolina, he's a saint when it comes to like helping children in the community. He will go down as one of the best running and dual threat quarterbacks at the position. He's just not that guy anymore. And it's not for lack of trying. It's for injuries and the fact that he has the most rushing touchdowns of any quarterback ever, and he's gotten beat the F up over his career. And that's not his fault.
It isn't, because he took a lot.
He took a
of
huge beating.
But here's what I want to. I'm just going to throw back some nice, interesting stats your way. All right.
Go for it.
So, I talked about how the deep ball the deep balls were not there, 26.
Yeah.
A total 31st in the league. But I will say that his deep ball completion percentage was number 4 in the league with 53.8%. So my question to you is, they brought in all these, these pass catching options, right? And this is why I do think is a little bit kind of funny in the whole term of how we look at certain players, right? Because we look at Lamar Jackson as super, super high upside. He's got this rushing ability that gives him the Konami code, and he's electric, but he can't throw, but we like him, right? He's got that upside. Cam Newton, on the other hand, threw for 100 yards less than Lamar Jackson did last year. Granted, a lot fewer touchdowns, but Cam Newton had more rushing touchdowns, I believe. Yes, he did. Cam Newton had 12 rushing touchdowns, number 1 in the league. He was number 2 in rushing attempts. So I just find it really funny that we are so high on Lamar Jackson, but so low on Cam Newton. But when you break down the numbers, they're very, very similar from passing and running standpoint. The other thing that we'll dive into right now is I am interested in these added weapons for New England. I think that was a huge reason why we didn't see Cam Newton be successful in, a lot of those plays. I think that offensive line was pretty bad. I think it'll be better this year. But I think that's why he was a little bit reluctant on some of those deeper attempts. But you're right. Like there were definite plays, and I believe last year, right, there was a few seconds left on a game or something, and they actually brought Cam out from the 50-yard line or something because they didn't think he could get the ball there. I might be misconstruing that with another.
No, you are very correct because he couldn't have gotten the ball.
Yeah.
You are very correct.
So I do get that. But let me ask you don't think any of these weapons, so, N'Keal Harry, maybe we're still waiting for that, 20-year breakout. We'll see. They bring in Nelson Aguilar. They get Jonnu Smith. Hunter Henry seems maybe they'll go back to that more so Tom Brady, dual tight end kind of thing, which actually might help a guy like Cam Newton because his, yards per attempt was 7.2, which is, minimal. You don't think that could help him be more steady, be more consistent, and then the fact that could, maybe elevate his game? Or you're just like, I'm writing off basically everybody except for maybe these running backs who we'll dive into right after these wide receivers?
Yeah, no, those weapons are going to be great for Mac Jones. I definitely agree with you from that standpoint. They'd be great for Mac Jones.
All right, how many games then? How many games are you predicting? You're saying 16 of 17 games. You think Mac Jones starts?
The 16 to 17 games is just me being an a-hole. I want Mac Jones to start every single game. I want him to suffer in his rookie year and learn the consequences. That's what I want out of him. Because he's somewhat pro ready, but I don't think he's there yet. I would like to see him. I don't think it happens. I think he probably starts somewhere in the range of 10 to 12 games. I don't really know. Bill Belichick is a wild card right now. Yeah. But I do want to say one reason I hate numbers. That stat you brought up that Cam Newton was the fourth most efficient deep ball passer. Did you also know halfway through the season he was the second most clutch quarterback in the fourth quarter behind Aaron Rodgers, according to Pro Football Focus? That's why numbers are stupid. Because in no way, shape, or form was Cam Newton even the definition of clutch. He was the furthest thing. He was the definition of choke. I don't understand how he got that ranking. It makes no sense to me. It is the numbers are Jay Cutler, if we looked at the numbers, Jay Cutler's the best quarterback of all time. Like, it makes no sense. These numbers that they throw out and all this garbage. So I respect the numbers.
Joe, don't hate the player. Hate the game, man.
Listen,
that's all I gotta say, dude.
Listen, I hate the numbers. The numbers is the game. The players, you live off your numbers. I don't hate you. I know a lot of people that live off their numbers. They do just fine.
I am. It's funny you say that because I am not. I did bring up those numbers not necessarily because I believe in them. It was more so because I knew it could be a good piece, right? But I do think it's really, really funny how like you do find certain people that are like super just numbers people, and that blows my mind. Like I was telling my wife that I was like, oh yeah, they're like some fantasy analysts that literally don't even watch the game. They just look at the numbers, and I'm like, I could never do that. And she's like, oh, you wouldn't say. And I just like, because every Sunday that's just all I do is watch the games from morning to night. And so I just never. I mean,
the epitome of numbers, and it stems from baseball. But the epitome of numbers, like if anyone watches baseball, the Rays live and breathe by analytics. They took out their ace pitcher in the Game 6 of the World Series. He let up 2 hits. Didn't even walk anybody. It was the 6th inning. Let up 2 hits. Had like 70 pitches. If you know anything about baseball,
Moneyball.
Literally, they follow Moneyball to a T. Yeah. The Rays pulled their ace pitcher in Game 6. He was never going to pitch again that season. Game 6 of the World Series, they were winning. Guess what happened? They bring in their reliever because of the analytics, and they lose, and the Dodgers win that game, and they win the World Series. If I'm the coach, Blake Snell should be pitching 200 pitches, and his arm should fall off by the end of that game because he then has 5 months to rehab. It blows my mind, these analytics and all these things, like should you kick on 4th and goal? Should you go for it? take the damn points. Like, what are we talking about here? Like a game last year with the Vikings, they go for it on 4th and 2 against the Seahawks. They're up 5. I'm like, you kick the field goal, you go up 8. So no brainer, right?
Sometimes they do get a little bit in their heads with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I mean, analytics do show that you should never punt the ball. You should go for it every single fourth down, because more oftentimes than not, you will actually get it, continue the drive, and potentially score your points. But yeah, I think that there are some funny things, and how they decide are interesting. Nuts. I just want to say, so with the Cam Newton on how long before he, gets benched for Mac Jones, I think it's going to be quick, unfortunately, because so they play the Dolphins week 1, then the Jets. Okay, he'll probably have a nice game against the Jets. Then
did you see last year Joe Flacco outplayed him?
Yeah, right.
It was close.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I mean, that was a showdown for the ages. They took it back for that night.
Yes, the El Clasico.
Then they go to the Saints, which we know the Saints typically have a nice defense. Then the Bucks. So I highly doubt that if they, I mean, there's a very real possibility that they lose to the Dolphins, they lose to the Saints and the Buccaneers, and they're sitting at 1-3 with Cam, and then they're going into this, October game, Patriots versus Texans, and they're like, all right, Mac Jones, you're in, buddy, because this is. But we'll see. I do, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say go into every draft taking Cam Newton. I'm not going to tell people that. I will say, though, like, if several of my quarterbacks that I'm looking at come off the board, then I'm, at one point I'll just be like, all right, I'll just go with Cam Newton and figure it out later, because I do think, he's had really good games at the beginning of last season because of his rushing ability. So I would just ride that until I could find a waiver wire quarterback. All right, Joe. Last team here, we're going to talk about the New York Jets. This will probably be a rather quick one because we said that in the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
The New York Jets, they go out, they revamp this whole thing. No more Adam Gase. Can we just real quick? Can we get just a thank you? That was.
Yeah, the blackmail must have been deleted off his hard drive or something, because he doesn't have a job anymore.
What it? Oh man, there's
blackmail.
So many. Yes, that has to be. Yep. That has to be. I swear we're gonna get a documentary like 10 years down the road, and it was like how Adam Gase. It would be like one of those American Greeds, and it'll be like how Adam Gase was able to distort the New York Giants and the Miami Dolphins to let him be a coach for like the last 8 years, or however long. It was too long because it was ridiculous. But all right, now they're free from that. They get a new coach. He's a defensive-minded head coach. You get the offense. Their offensive coordinator is Mike LaFleur, the brother of Matt LaFleur, and they're also under the disciple and tree of Kyle Shanahan. Excuse me, I blanked for a second. So we've got Zach Wilson, who is a rookie quarterback. Generally, that doesn't tend to work out super, super well, but he does have some athletic traits. You're not getting this guy in drafts, are you? But are you keeping? I mean, we're just telling people basically keep an eye out for him because he is super athletic. He could be fun to watch, and it might stream. You might be able to stream him. But other than that, probably staying away from him in most leagues.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee he'll be on Ryan's Stream of the Week at one point on Club Fantasy. I can almost guarantee that, because it's going to be a matchup that the Jets are heavily favored in, or they look good. The Jets play the Texans this year.
Yep.
Like there's an odds that Zach Wilson probably has a good game against the worst defense in the NFL. So I'm not drafting him in redraft. I think the only rookie quarterback that's probably you're going to draft and redraft is probably Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, you got a Clemson fan in your league. He'll draft Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think any of these guys you're rushing to get from a rookie quarterback standpoint, especially Zach Wilson. But definitely keep an eye on the waiver wire, especially if he has a good matchup like the Texans. I just know that one off the top of my head.
I'm looking here. They do play the Bengals October 31st. That defense was horrendous last year.
They have a sneaky. I think they have a sneaky
they?
good defense. Listen.
Okay.
Are they world beaters? No. Is Jesse Bates one of the best safeties in the league? Yes. They got Trey Hendrickson to go across Sam Hubbard, so they're gonna have a good pass rush. Their linebackers are garbage. Their linebackers suck. But they lost William Jackson, which is a big hit. So they will be able to get thrown on if the Jets can block for Zach Wilson, which the left side of the line I have faith in.
Mm-hmm.
George Fant from Seattle, I have zero faith in. So that's going to be the issue there.
And I'll just let you know, Whisper Nation, you just got a good little dose of why Joe is so good, because he does the defensive side of the ball, and he knows like all these players on the defensive side, and so that's very good information to know. All right, so you're not necessarily. I do tend to agree. I do like that left side of that offensive line. It's real nice. So that makes, and with 100% honesty, I have no idea how I missed Tevin Coleman going to the New York Jets. I don't know
and
when
everybody.
this. Yeah, I literally. So Michael Carter gets drafted there. I'm super excited. I'm telling people like, oh, Michael Carter, top of the depth chart, go get him. And then I go to do this show outline for us, and I'm looking and I'm like, wait, Tevin Coleman is on the New York Jets. When did I miss this? And I'm messaging people. I'm like, did anybody else see this information? So let us know now what you think of, Tevin Coleman and Michael Carter. Do you expect him to actually take over that job right away? Do you think, with this offensive system and scheme, we've seen that kind of, tend to nurture Tevin Coleman, but he can't stay healthy. So where would you lean in this running back system based on that information?
Yeah, Robert Saleh is really warming up the IR spot there for Tevin Coleman, so he's not a worry whatsoever. I like LaMichael Pirine, but keep in mind, Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur didn't draft LaMichael Pirine.
Yep.
They drafted Michael Carter. Both fourth-round guys. I mean, Pirine isn't like anything special. He was a solid running back at Florida, and he looked okay last year. But, I mean, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams were like God and Jesus themselves, according to people you talk to if you're, big UNC fan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to claim to know that I know a lot about Michael Carter, but I got him in both dynasty drafts that I was in because there's zero competition in front of him.
Where did you land him?
I think
asking for a friend, of course.
I think I got him in actually both spots in the draft. One was a 10 team, one was a 12 team. I got him at 19 in both spots, I think.
No way.
Hold on, no, I'm sorry. I got him in 19 in the 10 team, so 209, I think that is. And then I actually traded back from the number 2 spot to the number 6 and then back to 11 and got Michael Carter in a 12 team, 1 QB. Both of these are 1 QBs. So I apologize.
Okay.
Not 19 in the 12 team.
Well,
19 in the 10.
even still, that's a little surprising to me. I mean, I guess you do end up if you need wide receivers and things like that. The only reason I'm asking is because our draft is next Wednesday, or this Wednesday coming up, and I've got the 109, and I have an idea of who I kind of want to get, but I definitely didn't really expect that Michael Carter would be there. And then now you got me thinking that maybe Michael Carter will be available in the second round, which would be interesting.
So I'll tell you, the guys that were drafted in that 12 team ahead of him, Trevor Lawrence at 1, and it is a 1 QB, but the guy who took Trevor Lawrence at 1 has Deshaun Watson as his quarterback, so he just wanted stability, just in case anything happens there.
Yeah.
Number 2, he thinks Travis Etienne is Jesus, so he took Travis Etienne. Wow. Jamar Chase needed a wide receiver. Kyle Pitts wanted a tight end. Najee Harris went 105. That blows my mind. I don't know how Najee Harris fell there.
Wow.
And that was the thing. I had the 6th pick, and I was like, if Najee Harris falls to me at 6, that's a no-brainer. But he was drafted before me.
Did you at all try to maybe trade up to get that?
No, I was going to sit there and wait because my team is free. My team's loaded. Like my team, not to brag, my team is loaded. So I sat there and said, I don't need to trade up to get Najee Harris. If he falls to me, great. If not, I knew I was going to trade back because someone at 11 wanted my 6th pick for Jaylen Waddle. And I'm like, okay. I don't want Jaylen Waddle in the slightest. So let me trade back. And if Javonte Williams falls, great. If not, I want Michael Carter. That's perfect. So when Jaylen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Kenneth Gainwell, I don't know why. I don't know
fan?
why. No. Ravens fan. Makes no sense.
Okay.
Javonte Williams went 109, Rashad Bateman at the 110, and then I took Michael Carter at the 111.
Wow.
And the next
that is an order.
Yeah, the next running back off the board there didn't go until the 3-2, and that was Trey Sermon. So, yeah, Trey Sermon's falling. He went to the 3-2 in both of the dynasty drafts I was in.
Okay,
but yeah, I'm a fan of Michael Carter. Like I was okay trading back to take Michael Carter, and I was perfectly fine with it. I got a first-round pick next year to trade back and get Michael Carter, who's probably going to be a 1A or 1B in that offense. Perfect.
Yeah, I love that move. That's what I was kind of considering, potentially moving back out of that, because I, like you, I have a pretty solid team, so it's like I'm thinking about just adding future picks and then taking, especially if I know like a guy like Michael Carter is going to be there in potentially the second round, then I think that's a good move to make. All right, let me ask you then on Corey Davis. So sorry, you are expecting, would you expect anything from Michael Carter this year? Are you drafting him in redraft leagues?
He's draftable. He's going to be a guy where like he'll still, I would think he's still there in the 10th or 11th round.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth running back option. Why not? Like at that point, what do you? I'm sure you say this all the time. What are you looking for in late rounds? Upside.
Yep.
Michael Carter's the epitome of upside in the 10th round. Could potentially be the starting running back behind Mekhi Becton, who's a freight train, and Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a freight train. Like 2 first-round picks on the left side of that line. If they don't run inside zone to the left side on all of their run plays, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael Carter
would make sense that they would do that.
It would, but Michael Carter's definitely draftable. You're not drafting him to be a starter. You're drafting him with the thought that he could potentially be a flex play for you on weeks where he plays teams like a Cincinnati who has a bad run defense, like a Houston who has a terrible run defense, games like that.
Well, and I think too, you draft him, especially that late, and knowing that, hey, just a matter of time, like you said, before Tevin Coleman just goes on that IR, unfortunately. Exactly. And then you've got your workhorse guy who, okay, if P. Ryan does end up getting some volume, then you can reassess, obviously. But I'm with, your kind of take where this is a new coaching regime. They don't have any ties to P. Ryan.
Exactly.
And so I could definitely see them, giving a big workload to Carter, and he was super electric in college. Now, whether or not that'll translate over, I can't guarantee, but I will say for the price that you're paying, I definitely see a path to upside. And then guess what? Like, I don't have significant ties, or at that point, you're not significantly invested to where, like, if you need to drop a guy like that, there's a good potential that no one picks up him because they don't know who Michael Carter is, and he's not a starter. So I just think that it's kind of a win-win with him in draft. So as far as all Jets players go, I probably will have the most shares of Michael Carter this year.
Yep.
I do want to jump into these wide receivers real quick before we end the show. Corey Davis, I feel so bad for the guy, and Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore, who a lot of people actually really do like and are intrigued by. Denzel Mims, second year wide receiver, thought maybe this year could be some upside potential, but getting Corey Davis in there, getting Elijah Moore, and with a rookie quarterback. I mean, where are you at with these wide receivers? If someone said, Joe, you have to take a Jets wide receiver, which one would you ultimately go with? But realistically, are you taking any of these guys?
I mean, if gun to my head, probably Elijah Moore, because I think he's getting the best draft capital, like double-digit rounds. I think Mims and Corey Davis are good. I don't understand the hype on Corey Davis. Let's pump the brakes here. He was a number 1 receiver before, and he was terrible, like bad. And let's keep in mind here: are the defenses in this division ecstatic? No, but the cornerbacks are. He's facing Stephon Gilmore twice a year. He's facing Tre'Davious White twice a year, and either Byron Jones or Xavier Howard twice a year. Sorry, those are 6 games he's not catching a football. Yeah. So like I don't understand what the hype is here behind Corey Davis. And also, yeah, I'll add in the rookie quarterback just because I don't think Corey Davis is going to be good here. The rookie quarterback thing doesn't scare me as much. Keenan Allen got the ball thrown him 22 times in one game, and Justin Herbert was a rookie. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like if you have talent, the quarterback's going to throw to you. The sad reality is Corey Davis lost the talent the moment he left Central Michigan. So I'm sorry, he did.
Bringing the heat on the show. I love it, dude. Don't apologize for anything. Don't apologize. This is great.
He to me, he should have stayed in Tennessee. A.J. Brown was getting all the attention, letting Corey Davis have games of excellence. Denzel Mims is not drawing double teams or safety help over the top. Mm-mm. So that means, who's it going to? Corey Davis, the veteran and former first-round pick. That's who the help is going to. Because it's not going to Chris Herndon. It's not going to Elijah Moore or Jamison Crowder. It's going to Corey Davis. He's a former first-round pick. It's going to Corey Davis. So him getting all the attention, I hate. Now, could it be where LaFleur and Saleh can maybe scheme to get him open on quick screens and things like that? Sure. I don't think Davis has the elusive ability to break like a Deebo Samuel or a Brandon Ayuk, just going back to that 49ers offense where these guys have come from. I don't mind Denzel Mims. If he falls into the double-digit rounds, again, flyer pick. If he's a bench guy for me, I saw him play at Baylor in person. He's a beast of a human. Yeah. He's a big boy. Like, you don't realize, like, I think he's only like 6'2", 6'3", but he's jacked. Like, he's huge. I don't think there's a big breakout in year 2. I think Elijah Moore is the best talent on this entire receiver class, and the fact he fell to the second round blows my mind. Like, I get, who's it? Kadarius Toney from Florida. Dude, Dave Gettleman. What a move! Moving back,
and you heard that's why the Jags took ETN was because they wanted Kadarius Toney, and the Giants took him. So then they were like, oh well, I guess we'll get the next closest player to that kind of style, and so they went with ETN. That's the rumor, or like what I was reading, and I was like, this is unbelievable. This cannot be happening.
Urban Meyer,
I know
this is so stupid. Wow. Jaguars fans, I apologize that you paid this man a lot of money to sign Tim Tebow and then go 5-13 this year. I am sorry that you've had to deal with Greg Marone for the past 4 seasons and Blake Bortles as your quarterback previous to that. And now you finally get a quarterback that is probably going to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL, and Urban Meyer is going to take you to 5-12. I'm sorry.
Joe, you're making a great case on why we need to have you on when we talk about that division, because
line me up. I'm ready.
Hey, you got some great takes, man. I love it. So you're taking Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
If anyone, I think that's an interesting. There was a really cool stat here. I was going to quickly go over to those other show notes that I could definitely mention, but shout out to someone, the guy on Twitter. I saw this on his account, but he said over the last 2 years, there's been a second round rookie that has gotten over 850 yards receiving, 600 or six touchdowns, and 80 receptions. And so there was, we're going through the list, and obviously Elijah Moore is one of those guys that did get drafted in the second round. However, I think it would be a little bit of a stretch to maybe think that he could get there, especially in this year 1 with this offense the way it looks. It'll be interesting, though, to see Elijah Moore. A lot of people are excited for him.
They're going to have to throw, and that only benefits Elijah Moore at that point. And if I'm just thinking back here, I think the previous 2 second-round picks that they may be talking about went to the same college as Elijah Moore, also known as A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. So that just maybe the couple of receivers he's talking about at that point. Again,
for
they
that
all
one,
played together.
And then last year, I believe it was Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. So it was, I don't know if it was CeeDee Lamb for sure. Obviously, it was Justin Jefferson, but I believe CeeDee Lamb got over 850 receiving yards. But I will say his teammate is probably one I'm betting on as well. You talk about another good college, and that's Terrace Marshall.
Oh my God!
I think he's going to be a beast, dude. Anyway,
you want to talk about a school that produces stud wide receivers? Do you know the names Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry? Well, they came out the same year from LSU, and guess who's coming out the same year this year? Terrence Marshall and Jamar Chase, who is utterly absurd.
It's unbelievable how it's so wild how those colleges kind of do that. It's very interesting. All right, Joe. That does it for we made it through today's show. Sorry, it took a little bit more of your time than normal. But I know you and I both love talking fantasy football. Our community loves fantasy football, so they don't mind it. You want to let the people know, where they can find you, some things that are going on in the Club FF world, Club Fantasy FF world. Because I know you guys have some big stuff, and I think we're going to try to partner with you guys on some things. But yeah, you guys, a little whisper in the bush. And,
Josh, don't tell me anything. I show up to the shows and read whatever's on the show sheet, and I go from there. No, I would love
do the
that.
same thing with Travis, so don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine. So you can find me at Joe_Zollo. If you like sports business content. No, I don't really tweet that much. But you can find me there. I occasionally do some fantasy football banter. Club Fantasy FFL. You can find us there, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Up and coming things, we have our Look Inside series starting this week, the entire summer. I won't be there the next couple weeks. Hutchinson Brown is going to host for us, the Young Fantasy Mind, up and comer 14-year-old. He's awesome. He's great. We have Howard Bender on, and we go just how they finished last season. So first three teams, Jags, Jets, and Texans. So you get to see all that there, and we go all the way through the summer up until August 4th, which will be our last show, and then that will lead into our Women of Fantasy Football shows, where we already have some high-name guests that work at ESPN and Fox, just to name drop the places they work at. I won't say the names yet because I don't.
They're pretty exciting. We got it out of your co-hosts the other night. We were able to, I won't tell you what we did to them in order to get that information. But yeah, I'll tell Whisper Nation, it's pretty awesome, and I will definitely be tuning in because it's going to be great content.
Yeah, we don't. I don't know if I have security clearance to say the names yet, so I'll leave that down. But we also have some awesome. We raised money for the Women's Sports Foundation. We raised $1,500 last year. Goals to hit $3,000 this year, and we're doing raffles. Just some teasers. We have a signed Christian McCaffrey and a signed Alvin Kamara jersey, just to name a couple of the things that we're going to be.
No big deal. Just a
couple
of signed jerseys, like I always have on the wall. Like
exactly.
Joe's got back there.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's all we got. And last thing, just quickly, don't draft Sony Michel. He'll be cut. Damian Harris will be our RB2 this year. There you go.
Yeah, we did miss over the running back. But hey, that's great because I can snip that out, and that's a good little preview for the show.
You want a 30-second synopsis on the Patriots weapons? I can give you that. You want your teaser? Yeah. Here's your teaser. Boom. Start now. Okay. So here's your teaser for the Patriots. Nelson Aguilar is terrible. Kendrick Bourne I like, but I don't think he's going to be useful in this offense. N'Keal Harry is a fat wide receiver. Jacoby Myers, I like him underneath. I don't know how he fits into the offense right now. He's the second best quarterback on the roster behind Mac Jones. Gunnar Olszewski, I don't really know how he fits. I love the player. He's a great special teams guy, which is where Welker and Edelman started. So maybe he makes that slide in, but Jacoby Myers is standing in his way. Offensive line looks great this year. I think they'll probably be top 7 in the league. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry will play the dual tight end like we talked about. Rob Gronkowski being Hunter Henry, Aaron Hernandez being Jonnu Smith on the field. Damian Harris I love as a running back. James White, I hope he gets more value this year because he really is one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. Like I said, Sony Michel will get cut because Ramondre Stevenson has been drafted, and they will keep Brandon Bolden as a special teamer and J.J. Taylor as the backup to James White. Boom.
Just like that. The best in the business. All right, Whisper Nation, that does it for today's show. Last thing I'll end on is if you want to be a part of the Whisper Nation community, you could do so. Just join our Discord chat. It's absolutely free. Link is in the description, and we will drop like fresh content on there, as well as that's how we release the sleeper draft mock. When we do mock draft on Monday, we release the sleeper link in there before we actually tweet it out to everybody else. So if you want to try to get a better spot in that, make sure you click that Discord link below and join us. All right, that does it for today's show. Once again, I want to thank Joe Zollo. Find him on Twitter at Joe_Zollo from Club Fantasy FFL. Appreciate you, man, so much for joining us. Whisper Nation, you guys have a great weekend. I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks. We're the Fantasy Whispers, and we're out. Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified anytime we drop new content or go live. And if you're still not sold yet, check out one of these videos.